Today we are going to be talking about adult caregiving. And on a lot of the publicity it says adult caregiver stress, but we're also going to talk about adult caregiving joy, because there is so much joy mixed in with a good bit of stress with adult caregiving. How many of you in this room are in the midst of caring for somebody? Okay. And how many of you have a friend or a family member who is caring for somebody? Yeah. I think if you did not raise your hands to one of those questions, there's a good chance that give yourself a year and you will be raising your hand. We all have been in that situation or know someone who's been in that situation. And as people live longer, which is really wonderful, we also are seeing a greater incidence of reasons for adult caregiving. And so today we have three presenters who are going to be speaking. We have Alice Williams, who is the director of Libby's Place, an adult day center in Galveston, and that's actually the PowerPoint that you've seen up here. She'll be speaking in just a moment. And then Nancy Engel, who is with Interfaith Care Partners, which is a group that collaborates with primarily churches to provide support for caregivers and for those who are caregiving too. That didn't come out very well. And then Adele, will you pronounce your last name for me?
Hertzfeld.
Adele Hertzfeld. She is the senior social worker with geriatrics here at UTMB, and some of you may actually know Adele as well. The other thing I want to say is we are so pleased that Lunch Bunch each month is videotaped, and we want to make a special thank you to the Oliver Center who helps to make that happen. And you can tune in on the UTMB site. If you just Google UTMB Lunch Bunch, you will be directed to that site that has the videotapes of former lunch bunches. So I'm going to tell a quick story before I have Alice come up here. Mr. Tom. Love Mr. Tom. He and Grandma Betty were my children's adopted grandparents, and they live in League City. And Mr. Tom actually invented the toilet that went on the space shuttle. That's pretty cool. And he was the first person in the United States to deal with linear robotics, and he was just very, very, very intelligent. Well, Mr. Tom, he always kind of liked to talk like a country boy. He grew up in the country in Georgia. And he started talking more and more country. And he was forgetting things and seemed a little addled. And Grandma Betty said, I think we need to go ahead and have you tested for Alzheimer's here. And so they went ahead and they tested him, and he was entered into a program with one of the places down in the medical center to track his how Alzheimer's was manifesting itself in him with a very intelligent person. This was years ago. Anyway, well, Mr. Tom, he lived a long time, and he was wonderful. And one of the things that Mr. Tom used to do, in fact, Alice, come on up here, because Alice is going to speak. But I'm going to use Alice as an example. Mr. Tom, whenever he would see someone in his family or someone who he was very, very close to, he'd always hug and go, yum, 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 yum. And he'd hold on and he'd just say, yum, 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 yum. Well, toward the end of Mr. Tom's life, he didn't know anybody's name. He didn't know himself. He didn't know very much, but he could still dance. He loved to two-step. And he would know who to hug and say, yum, 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 yum. Well, those were the really, really joyful times. There were really hard times with Mr. Tom, too. Mr. Tom as well. There were times that he became combative. There were times that he was very, very difficult and obstinate. And so you get both the joy and the stress. And so without going on further, Alice, I'm going to ask for you to tell us a little bit about Libby's Place and some of your good stories for about 15 minutes, and then we'll do another 15 and another 15, and then we'll have lots of time for questions and answers. And if you have questions in the midst of things, just wave.
Yes, please. Thank you, Stacy. Hi, everyone. As Stacy said, I'm Alice Williams. I'm the Executive Director for Libby's Place. My first question is, how many of you in here have heard of Libby's Place? Good, about half the room. So hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about us today. And for those of you who have not heard of us, I'll hopefully bring you some information that can be helpful to you in some way. I'm letting our slideshow just run behind me. I hope it's not distracting. If it is, focus on me. But I like to let it just run because a lot of it are pictures. As they say, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words or more. And a lot of our pictures these are all pictures of people who attend Libby's Place and our staff. And to give you an idea about what we mean when we say we rediscover the joy of life. Libby's Place is a licensed senior adult daycare. The reason we emphasize the word senior is that we only serve people 55 and over at our adult daycare program. In the state of Texas, the licensing can be from 18 and over, but our particular program is 55 and over. That's a very unique thing about Libby's Place. So everyone you see in these pictures, except for some of the staff and some of our students, is 55 and over. And our age range currently is 56 to 100. We had a 100th birthday last year. Last week. One of her picture from her 99th birthday is in here. But we got to just celebrate her 100th birthday, and that's quite an honor to be among somebody and know someone who has lived 100 years and is still very active. This is her last year. She looks exactly the same.
Wow, she looks great.
And actually, her 100th birthday was in the newspaper this past weekend, so it's quite an achievement. And we like to have fun at Libby's Place, but behind all of that is the structure and the purpose of having a senior adult that comes to our program because they have some kind of special need. Sometimes it's somebody who's in early stages of Alzheimer's or has some cause of dementia. Maybe it's not even clear yet what's going on, but there's some forgetfulness, some confusion maybe, some disorientation, and they're in the process of trying to get a diagnosis. But yet they know there's enough changes that they need some extra help during the day, and we're there to provide that. Sometimes it's a person who has Parkinson's disease that's progressed to the point where they need extra help, mainly physical help, but also some encouragement and social support. They've become socially isolated at home due to their illness or just due to the fact that they've lived into their 90s or their late 80s. They don't drive anymore. Their family works. They're still at home and they're doing okay, but loneliness by itself can be very detrimental to a person. And so we also serve people just in that capacity. So people that have the social isolation, the physical needs, the cognitive needs, come together at a place called Libby's Place and find friendship and support and care that they need. The care is provided through our staff. I'm the executive director. I'm also a licensed social worker, so I help in those aspects of caring. We have a full-time licensed nurse. That's something a lot of people don't know because that's really not the emphasis of our program. Our emphasis is all the fun stuff, but behind it is a nurse providing medication, monitoring any kind of physical illnesses that they need to have, administering medications like insulin. We check for blood glucose levels, those kind of things throughout the day, making sure people that are on a medication schedule stay on that schedule while they come to the program. I mentioned Parkinson's a few minutes ago, but we have several people with Parkinson's that getting that medication on time, having that time to rest after the medicine and then getting right back up again is critical, and we can provide all of that for them. We also have a full-time activities director. And her job, as is plain to see, is to help people stay active and involved. And we do that a variety of ways. And we also have care associates who assist people, whatever they need help with during the day. If they're just not lifting the arm quite right during exercise, they'll say, hey, try it this way. Or if they're looking for the bathroom, it's this way, let me help you. We provide assistance in the bathroom. That's a critical part of our service that a lot of people I've found people assume that if someone needs assistance in the bathroom, that they can't use Libby's Place. I assure you that is not true. That's a large part of our service that we find that people need the most. We also provide lunch. We have a hot lunch. We sit down together at small tables around our dining room, and they have lunch with their friends. And we serve a snack. We have coffee and a snack in the morning. In the afternoon, before everybody starts leaving, we have water and a light snack. We promote water. I like to see everybody sitting there with water bottles. That does my heart good. But that's one of the subtle ways that we make sure people get enough to drink and to eat through the day. And we document that. How much do they drink? How much do they eat? Are they getting proper nutrition? We have a dietitian that comes out once a month, and she checks how much weight people have lost or gained or kept the same. Are we following a special diet? Everybody at Libby's Place is on a no added salt diet, so we follow that, but we also provide no concentrated sweets, a diabetic diet. If there are certain foods they can't eat, we will provide foods that they can. So all of that's part of the program. We also have RN consultants that come in because our full-time nurses in LVN, they primarily come in because we have a VA contract. So a veteran who's qualified to receive benefits through the VA and is using the VA for their health care may very well qualify to have Libby's Place as part of their service and have part or full coverage of the cost of our services for them. We're very proud of that. We currently have 9 veterans in our program, and that is something that we've done for this is our 6th year with the VA. So yet another branch of our services. We also have 2 very important people that are our bus drivers. And we have 2 buses that go out and pick people up from their home or depending where they live from a meeting spot every day, Monday through Friday. And the meeting spot in this area, we meet at the Walmart down at 1764 and I-45. For people that live north of there, we meet at 7:30 in the morning. They come to Libby's Place. We'll meet back there at 4:30 in the afternoon, and they go home. So I like to let people, especially in this part of the county, know that we do our best to provide transportation, but they can also provide their own. There is also the Connect Transportation, which will bring people to our program, or a private vehicle. And we're very flexible with how we try to schedule people's days, the times, and their bus service. So that's all available. I mentioned earlier about our activities director, and I want to just kind of walk you through a typical day at Libby's Place. People start coming at 7:30 in the morning. That's usually from working caregivers who need to be at work by 8 o'clock at UTMB or Anaco. They can be dropped off at 7:30, and we have coffee in the newspaper, and we have magazines. We might have the morning news on in the day room, the dining room. And then as other people come in, they visit and get together. They might play a word game. We have things out on the tables for them to do. Then about 9:30, we all gather together and we say the Pledge of Allegiance. We offer the Lord's Prayer and personal prayers if they wish to participate in that. We sing God Bless America or America the Beautiful or the Star Spangled Banner, something like that. Then we have our coffee and snack. Then we have an exercise group. For about 30 minutes, we do sitting exercise to music. It's very active as they can or want to be. Sometimes we have a music program in the morning. We have lots of volunteers that come to our program and provide piano music or guitar music. We have 2 that play the accordion. I can do it, but I can't say it. So music is a big part of our day, and we make it part of each day. And then we have a health education time with our nurse. So learning about health issues that are related to older age, nutrition, hydration are 2 of our big topics, but also about heart health and how to keep yourself healthy and how to do exercise in a way maybe that's different from when you were younger. That's part of each day. We have a devotional time, and then we have lunch, as I mentioned. Then after lunch is a time where, depending on the day, they can play table games, dominoes. We have some Scrabble players that are really serious about Scrabble. I cannot keep up with them. Dominoes and cards. Sometimes we have a special program in the afternoon. And that might be another music program. It might be gardening. We have the Galveston County Master Gardeners that offer a weekly program of gardening. If you've been watching the slideshow, we take great pride in our 28-pound watermelon that we grew this summer. That was one of about 16 watermelons that we grew in our garden. So gardening is a big part of our day when the weather permits, and even when it doesn't. I have a lady that goes out every morning and she checks the garden. She wants to see what's growing, what's ready to harvest. We have a raised bed with herbs in it. We have a raised bed with lettuce and another raised bed with spinach that we've been enjoying this winter, adding it to our salads at lunch. So we definitely eat what we harvest. It's not just for show. We also have a butterfly garden area in our garden where the monarch butterflies that'll be coming through the year, this spring will be coming through, and we have special plants planted there, and we get a real kick out of that. We get to watch them spin their chrysalis and emerge. The whole aspect of the life cycle of a butterfly is had right there in our Libby's garden. So there aren't a lot of pictures of the garden here, but I like to let people know it's a very special place. We also had a prolific eggplant this summer. It was about as big, wide as this table.
Oh.
And we estimated we harvested about 40 eggplants off of that. It just kept producing and producing. So anyway, that's just a unique aspect of our program. And for people who that's a lifestyle, who grew up on a farm, grew up out in the country, you know, always had their fingers in the dirt, but can't get down anymore, maybe down to the dirt, that's where the raised beds and things come into play, and they can still participate and plant, harvest, and eat all those things from the garden. So anyway, another aspect of our program is we host students. This is some of our UTMB nursing students come out, and they do their community health rotation. They spend 30 hours at Libby's Place. And they come in and help us with activities. They bring new activities to us. We also work with occupational therapy students. We've hosted some family medicine residents and fellows that are going through the geriatric rotation. So they can get the idea of adult daycare. What is it? Who goes? What's it like? And of course, we have them jump right in with us. There's no holds barred. If you come to Libby's Place, you're going to participate with whatever's going on. But what our people say, and this is something unique, I need to watch my time, but recently we had a nursing, she's working toward her PhD in nursing, and she goes to UT in San Antonio. But she wanted to study adult daycare and visited many adult daycares there, had learned about Libby's Place from visiting the UTMB Geriatrics Department here in Galveston, and came to visit Libby's Place. And she chose our program to do her study because of the unique aspects of our program that I've just described to you. And I just want to share some of her findings with you, because the overall finding that she found from interviewing the people who participate, their caregivers, their families, and our staff, is what the quote was: Libby's Place is a light in the dark. Yes, and you know, put in those are words that I had never put it to before. And I've described Libby's Place many ways, and I've worked there since Libby's Place opened. And that to me is the highest compliment, and shows that we are achieving our goal. And what we set out to do every day is bring some light into the darkness, that people that are struggling with memory loss, with physical loss, with personal loss, losing family members, friends, outliving people, is when you get into your late 80s and 90s, you've outlived a lot of your friends and family. And to have the opportunity to reconnect and make new friends and start back up those social connections is a big part of what we do. And so the light in the dark that Libby's Place is here for our community, and I just am really honored to come and share that today. Some of the things that we do also is we work with other. We're not what did Adele say? We're not working in a vacuum. So we very much work with the doctors, the nurses, the students, our community, you know, collaborating together to help people find our service that need it, and for us to help find them the services they may need because we can no longer meet their needs. You know, a lot of times we're serving people at the very beginning of when they are seeking help. And they're not even sure what they need. You know, I get a lot of phone calls, and they'll go, well, I don't think Mom's ready for this yet, but, you know, I'm worried about her. I'm not sure she's eating lunch. I'm not sure that she's taken her meds. She sleeps all day. These are, you know, examples of things we hear. So what we offer is a chance for them to come and spend a day at Libby's Place before they fully enroll in our program. So they can turn in their application, we get a doctor's history and physical, and then they can come spend the day. And that gives us a chance to assess them, and them a chance to, I tell them, you get to come test drive us, see if you still like us after you spend a day. And then if we feel it's a good match and we can meet their needs, then we enroll them in our program. And if we don't, we try to help them find the services they need, whether that's at home or, you know, somewhere else.
So my name is Nan Single. Pardon my notes, I have a couple quotes I want to read. So I work for Interfaith Care Partners as a care team coordinator, and I'll get back to that later. I have to admit I was a little stressed when I heard we were speaking about caregiver stress. That just doesn't the word stress just kind of make you go, and it did, because, you know, that caregiver stress is so deeply personal, and even though many of us have been there ourselves and felt that ourselves, I don't feel the least bit qualified to address it with someone else other than to acknowledge, I know. It's like I know to the extent that I can possibly know what caregivers are going through. I get that. I want to share with you a quote from an Alzheimer's caregiver. I love this. During my lifetime, one of the most important lessons I've learned is that God's will is not just something great that we aspire to do for Him, but rather it is taking whatever job God places in our hands, whether large or small, and doing it for His glory. Caregiving is a job never aspired to and rarely trained for, but it is one of those unexpected jobs placed in our hands by God to carry out for His glory. Isn't that kind of lovely? It's one of the hardest things, I think, to recognize on a day-to-day basis what a privilege caregiving is. But indeed it is. And from another caregiver. My wife and I have become mirror images of each other. As she loses her self-control, I find it increasingly hard to hang on to mine, as if it seems her illness has infected me. We bicker, we have petty squabbles, and I know I sometimes provoke them myself. Our confrontations sometimes sound like the hostilities of an ordinary embattled marriage, but in such a marriage there is always an out, to separate. In our marriage, if we should go our separate ways, she would go directly into a facility. And this woman with whom I go back half a century, whose life has been entwined with mine for decades, and with whom I have lived my most fulfilling years, is far too dear to me to be able to contemplate that now. I am finding myself facing squarely for the first time in my life the bleak prospect of spending the rest of my days as a caregiver of a well-meaning, loving, but helpless and clueless woman. I find myself succumbing in odd moments to unexpected bouts of grief, as if a life has ended, not hers, but mine. You know that feeling? And again, it's true. And you know, the beauty of the job that Alice and I both have is we have the opportunity to get in here and love these folks. You know, we have the opportunities to offer, whether it's a full day or in my case, a 3.5 hours at a time bit of respite so that they can get away and do their own thing, or so that they can just stay and have fun and relax with the knowledge that the other folks in the room are just there to pay 100% attention to their loved one and love them while they're in the room. And that in and of itself gives them a release. I had a young lady, she was bringing her father to a program, and her mother always came as well. And she said it was really hard to talk her mom into bringing her dad to this program, because her mom was still in that space where, even though she didn't know the people in the room, she didn't want them to know that there was something going on with her husband. That's sometimes very hard to admit. And she finally brought her mom. After 2 or 3 times, she said, "You're not going to believe the change that's taken place in my mom." Well, I really wasn't expecting a huge change to take place in the caregiver. I expect to see the change take place in our client. But she said, my mom said, we walked into that room, and she said there were people who never met us before, and people who didn't know Jose when he was Jose. And she said it was okay. She said they just opened up their arms, and it was okay that he acted the way he acts. And she said just like they had, they just loved him the way he was. And that was kind of stunning to her that could even happen. And she said her mom's loosened up ever so much more with the way she interacts with her dad, and certainly with the fact that she's no longer fearful about taking him out in public. She doesn't have this fear that everybody going down the street or everybody in the room is going to go, oh, and think there's something wrong, which is lovely. We have I'll go back and talk a little bit about the program. Interfaith Care Partners has been around since the mid-'80s, and what we do is we partner with churches to mentor and educate volunteers to have kind of a care team thing, which offers through several different programs: AIDS care teams, Kids Place care teams, Second Family care teams, the Gathering Place, which is my favorite, so that these churches can offer programs to those in their congregation and in their community. The Gathering Place, which I've got to admit is my absolute favorite, is a 3.5-hour program offered once a month in a church congregation. And we have 60 churches in the Houston area with Gathering Places. And we have, we call our clients care partners. We partner together to care for them. We have care partners who literally go to 18 gatherings a month. I mean, they can barely keep up their schedule, and they are welcome to do that. But it is their social life. You know, it is the thing that gets them out of the house. It's the opportunity for the caregiver to come and stay and meet the other caregivers. We frequently have a concurrent caregiver support group that runs with the Gathering Place, so that the spouses and the daughters and all can get off into another room for an hour and a half and chat about the difficult stuff while they know that their husband and wives and everybody are having a good time in the other room, and then they join back together for lunch. So we have basically, you know, we do the same things at Alice's places during the day. You know, we have crafts, and we have music, and we have an exercise component, and we have a coffee time, and we have lunch. And depending on the church kitchen, some of those lunches are pretty darn fabulous. Some of those church ladies are real proud of their food, and we benefit from that. And it's every bit of it's free of charge. Every bit of it. If anyone's interested in a Gathering Place, Stacy will hand out some flyers there later. You can call our office and ask for me, and I'll find the closest church that would accommodate whoever you're talking about, and we can get that started. So here's a few other things I've heard from people in our support group, the caregivers that went into the support groups. One of them said, you know I look nice on the outside, but I'm screaming on the inside all of the time. We can understand that. One said, when I have to take my husband out, it feels as cumbersome as lugging around a mattress all day and finding out that some doors are just not big enough for the two of us to go through. And that was after a story she told trying to get her husband to go to the doctor, and what a massive undertaking that can be. Our programs start at 10 o'clock in the morning. They run 10 to 1:30. We try to ask folks not to come too early because they come early and the church volunteers are there and they're trying to set up, you know. But we have people who show up at 9 o'clock and sometimes early, and they'll just come dragging him at the door going, I got him up, I got him dressed, he's yours. I mean, it's just like, I got him this far. Yeah, we're here now. Another lady, this was just last week, she said, yesterday my husband read me the address label on a Reader's Digest 57 times. Over and over and over. He wanted me to hear this. She said, I started counting just to kind of make that a game so that I could get through it. Because she said he was driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. She said, I just wanted him to stop talking. And she said she was afraid she was going to lash out at him, rather. So she said she kind of made it into a game. Well, 57 times, maybe next time he'll break that record. And she said then she remembered that one day he wasn't going to do that anymore. And how was that going to be, to not hear that voice? Even that voice that's reading your address to you 57 times in a row. And she said, that's my touch now. Whenever there's something that's just nagging, she said, I just stop back and take a deep breath and think, and what if this wasn't happening at all? What if his words have stopped and he can't speak to me anymore? I would rather be here than there. And that, you know, you got to find those little things that help keep you there, those little moments to appreciate. You know, I look in the faces of the people that I work with, and oh my goodness, you know this. They're just, you look in the face of a 77-year-old man with Alzheimer's, and you know, despite the wrinkles and everything, I see a child. I see, he may not have childish behavior, but I see an innocent face. I see an innocent child of God is what I see. It's immediate. and it's our job to treat them accordingly. It really is. Stacy wanted some stories.
Tell us a story.
Tell you a story. Okay, changing the names to protect the innocent. And it's the men. It's mostly the men in my groups who are rapscallions. So I have Leo and Alice. So Leo has reached a point in his disease where he's got some really questionable vocabulary and some really questionable behavior, and he's gotten pretty consistent about it. And he's the fellow that when I go in to train new teams or I have new volunteers that come in, I say, I need to tell you about Leo, just so they won't be freaked out. He's just a really friendly guy. And the beautiful thing about it is his wife Alice totally understands that, and she takes it with a grain of salt and a sense of humor anytime. Leo pulls his shtick, and she just sits back and laughs and says, "Oh, Leo." Whereas she could be the caregiver who's sitting there going, "I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. I need to apologize for him. We can't come back here." She doesn't do that. She laughs, and everybody else laughs around her. But Leo's just real fond of ladies and things, and there was one day, I can't believe I'm telling this story.
I'm glad you are. This is a good story.
Yeah, you like this one. So we're in a church, and he's wandered out. He keeps trying to wander out of the gathering place room because his wife is actually in a caregiver support group down the hall. And the minute she left the room, "Where's Alice? Where's Alice?" Well, I always say, "Oh, she's in the room talking to those other ladies. You know how those ladies like to talk. They'll be back by lunch." And 3 minutes later, "Where's Alice?" And every once in a while, he has to get up and make a beeline for a door. He's fairly strong, so he's not really a guy you can put your hand on his arm and expect him to stop. So we usually, someone will be designated to just go with Leo, and sometimes we take turns. I couldn't get him back in the room. I did get him on a bench outside the room, and we were talking, and I'm thinking of every distracting thing I can come up with, so that he won't be off and looking for Alice. And I'm showing him pictures of my cat on my cell phone or something, and he has something to say about those cats too. Apparently he doesn't like them. So I asked him, I had a picture of my son. I said, "This is my son." Well, I said, "Well, Leo," and I know some of his history, and I said, "How many children did you and Alice have?" And he said, "I think there were 7, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the father of very many of them." Well, there are 9, and he is the father according to Alice. But and I said, "Do you have pictures of any of them? Do you have pictures in your wallet?" Well, I thought that was a perfectly innocent question. Turned out not to be. He pops open his wallet, and he goes to where the money is, and the man's got 3 $100 bills, which to me was astounding for a wandering man with Alzheimer's to have this kind of cash. But he looks at the money, and then he pulls one out. I'll use you, because I don't want to inflict this on you.
Okay.
He pulls one out, and he says, "I'll give this to you right now if you'll have sex with me on that red cushion over there." And it's like, I knew in my mind someday something like this was going to happen, and I just said, "Oh, Leo, thank you, but not now." And I kept trying to, And he says, "Well, what's the matter?" I said, "Well, you're a married man." And he said, "Well, she's in the other room." I said, "That's true, but you're still a married man." He said, "Are you one of those good girls?" I said, "I certainly am." He said, "Are you Catholic?" And we were in a Catholic church at the time, and I said, "No, but you are." And he hasn't pulled that again, although I worry when I see him flipping through his cash. And at the end of the day, the funniest thing of it all was that at the end of the day, it finally occurred to me, he had $300 cash, and he only offered me $100. So, I didn't go for that. We have another church that, oh, bless them, they just believe that the care partners that come can do anything. I mean, they don't give them childlike tasks. They just say, "Hey, let's go try this." And every year at Christmas, they have a Christmas play, and they have costumes, and we assign a Mary and a Joseph and everybody else, and we help them into these costumes. And of course, some of them are right on it. Some of them can read the script, and some of them are just wandering like the nomads, which is fine because it makes for a good story. And Charlie has no words. Occasionally he'll point down and he'll say, "My shoes," and those are about the only words that come out of Charlie. Charlie is adorable, though. He is one of my favorite guys. He is absolutely the face of innocence, and unfortunately Charlie has a wife who, after 9 years now, does not accept Charlie's condition. And Charlie will do something or say something, and she'll swat. So, "What's the matter with you? Stop that. What's the matter with you?" And I go, "He has Alzheimer's. Charlie, come dance with me," you know. And, you know, Charlie's the one who's taught me how to dance. This is how it goes.
Okay.
Now, I never knew how to dance until I met Charlie. Now, this is how I dance wherever I go.
That is great.
But, yeah. And he just smiles. He smiles so much. We've got a church. There's one church we go to. It's Catholic, and every once in a while, one of the sisters will walk through the room. And for some reason, when Charlie sees one of the sisters, he wants to dance with her. And he will go up and chase her around the room and get her to dance. And it's just adorable. So Charlie, anyway, back to the play. Charlie was playing the role of Joseph. So the person in charge was going, "Okay, Mary, I want you here and everything, and we want the baby." You know, they had the baby doll, and we want you here. And innkeeper, you need to go tell them there's no room at the inn. You know, so Charlie. No, I'll be
I
Charlie.
want to dance
I'll be
with
Charlie.
Mary.
I'm Charlie. No, he didn't dance with the innkeeper, Stacy.
Oh.
So Charlie's standing here, and the innkeeper's here, and the innkeeper's got his script. He says, "I'm sorry, there's no room at the inn." And Charlie, who usually doesn't have very good timing or anything, looked at him and he went, "Okay." He left the room. He just turned and left the room. We had to get him back in there with Mary. We also had a fella in that play, Jose, and Jose also doesn't have words, but Jose had a past as a prison minister. And, you know, we'd never seen anything about that come out in him before, and he was pretty confused at the start of this. He was one of the wise men, I guess, or shepherds, whatever. Anyway, another wise man was trying to get him to move around the room. They're supposed to walk around the manger and come. They're supposed to be following the star in the yard. Oh, I guess it was shepherd. Because I finally thought, okay, I'm going to have to help here. And I threw myself down on the floor in front of him. And I'm crawling along and going, "Bah!" "Bah!" And they just started following me. It was hysterical. These 3 men with staffs were just following me around the room and stuff. And he gets around there, and it's like the end of the thing, and you've got this beautiful tableau. You've got Mary and Joseph, and you've got the baby laying in the manger. And at one point, he went, and Charlie reached down and picked up the baby. And we ended it with a song. It's like everybody gets there, and then they encourage the rest of the group. I don't know whether Joy to the World or something, but they've got everyone in the room singing. In the meantime, the daughters and the wives and all are just taking pictures like crazy. And just really loving the fact that they can do this. And Jose, who's standing off to the left of the manger, suddenly, it's like it clicked in with him where he was, what was going on. And in the middle of the song, he pulls up his robe, and he very carefully gets down on his knees. And he went like this.
Oh.
And the whole room just dissolved in tears. Oh, thank you. Just dissolved in tears. His wife, his daughter-in-law got it all on film, and she ended up copying it and giving it to everybody in their family that Christmas. And she said, "I will never forget that moment when this game essentially you were playing brought my daddy back into who he used to be, you know." So I consider myself the privileged one, and Alice is too. She knows it, because we just get to go in there. You know, we don't have to take these folks home at night. We don't have to deal with the 24, 36-hour-a-day caregiving and not getting any rest and all of that. But we do have the absolute joy and pleasure of being able to be there and give them the best 3.5 hours of the day, or the best 8 hours of their day, or whatever it is. And in the meantime, allow those caregivers to enjoy themselves, get away just for a little bit, and also to realize that they don't have to do this all themselves.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Joy. And Adele, come on up. There's a lot of joy in the midst of all of this, and how great that there are different things in the community that can help us as we are caring for the people that we love. My mom had Alzheimer's, and before she passed away, she knew both of my sisters, myself, and my daughter. And that was all she knew, and she always knew today. Today, there wasn't a yesterday, there wasn't a tomorrow, there was always today. And she was just happy because it was always today. And Adele works in geriatrics here at UTMB as a senior social worker. And Adele, come share with us. We've got about another 12, 13 minutes, and then we have plenty of time to stay afterwards and chat.
Well, I do have some stories that I'll share. I spend most of my time with caregivers. But sometimes I do have the joy of interacting with the patient. In the geriatric clinic, patients are, right now we're accepting 70 years and older. We will accept younger than 60 or 70, and we have accepted much younger than even 55. If the person has diseases commonly associated with old age. We do a lot of consults, a lot of memory consults. And when I talk to patients, they have memory problems. I don't care which form of dementia they've got. There's a zillion different types of dementia. One theory is that for every person who has a dementia, there are that many different dementias. But you know, we've got the common ones that people frequently hear about: Alzheimer's, frontotemporal, Lewy body, vascular dementia that has to do with stroke activity in the brain, and maybe not a dramatic stroke that causes paralysis, but little infarctions that just a minuscule loss of blood flow in the brain, very small damage to the brain, but over time the cumulative effect starts impacting the memory. So I deal with memory problems. And most of my patients will admit, yes, I have memory problems. Well, who doesn't? Yeah, at some point in our life, we all have memory problems. We had a man show up who was 45. And he was concerned, he was a police officer, and he was concerned that he might have a form of dementia. Well, then as the doctor is interviewing him, there's turmoil within the police department that he has no control over. His wife is in the process of leaving him. He's been kicked out of his house. He doesn't have a new place to live yet. I mean, you look at the scale of stress and the amount of stress that comes along with these life events. He's off the chart. And so the doctor counseled with him, start working on some of these stresses that you have in your life, and you should see that your memory is going to return. Stress is a big killer of memory, or interferes with memory. I had read read an article. We can keep track of 7 things at a time in our brain. 7 things. When you try and smash number 8 in there, one's going away. And the one that goes away might have been the most important thing you needed to achieve that day. And it's like, I must be losing my mind. I must have dementia. I forgot the most important thing. So we spend a lot of, when a new patient comes to be examined or a consult, they spend an hour with the nurse practitioner who takes their history and goes through, gives them some tests. Then they spend an hour with the doctor. And again, all of the information is reviewed. If the doctor has any questions, they start asking, or they get answers to their questions. And then any diagnostics that need to be done. Lots of lab work. There are vitamin imbalances that mess with memory. Okay. There are medications that mess with memory. And so when the doctors find that we've got somebody who's using Tylenol PM every night to go to sleep, it's like, stop taking the Tylenol PM. because Tylenol PM has Benadryl in it. And Benadryl has a very long half-life in the body of an elderly person. So these are all things that if you're concerned, go, get a consult. You don't have to change primary care physician. We offer primary care. We also offer consults. And a lot of our internal medicine doctors will send one of their patients to us for a consult. You do not, if you go to Kelsey Siebold and your doctor over there says you need a geriatric consult, then they'll work it out with that HMO. Now, a couple of other things that we offer. As a social worker, I work with a lot of family members. What do? I'm working. I can't leave mom or dad at home. And so then I'm making referrals to Alice, to the gathering, and to other community resources that might benefit the family. My services are not only offered to UTMB employees or patients. I get calls from people in the community. I don't come to UTMB, but I was told to call you. Come on in. I help people with their advanced directives. So in the clinic, there's a lot of things, but we also offer a caregiver seminar for caregivers of persons who have memory loss, because we know that creates a lot of stress. The person who 57 times in a day repeats the address on the magazine or asks, what time is it? What are we doing today? That can wear on you. And the last thing we want is for there to be an adverse reaction where someone is hurt. Because stress builds up, and we need to kind of cut it off at the knees where we can. The seminar is offered every month. We alternate between the League City and Galveston clinics. In even-numbered months, it's in League City. Odd-numbered months is in Galveston. It's 3 hours, 1:30 to 4:30, and pre-registration is required. We limit attendance or participation each month to 10 people. Only a couple of months have we gotten to that. Normally it's between 4 and 6 people. Then other resources in the community, support groups are wonderful. And Alice and I co-facilitate the support group that meets at Libby's Place once a month on first Tuesdays. But there's a support group at the cottages up here in League City. There's one at St. John's. There's one at Mainland Hospital. So there are support groups in the area, and you're welcome to sit in and attend. One of the things that we talk about in our educational seminar is the behavior you're experiencing really something that you want to stop? And if it is something you want to stop, then how can we think creatively about this? We had a daughter who every day when she came home from work, her father had pulled the contents of her kitchen drawers out, on top of the counter, on the table, on the floor. Did it hurt anything? No. Was it a pain in the backside? Yes. Well, then she got creative. What can we do? Dad's bored. Well, he had been a mechanic. So they got an old carburetor, said, here, Dad, this needs to be fixed. And all day long, he sat there and he put it together and he took it apart. And he put it back together and he took it apart. He was no longer bored. All of her drawer items stayed in the drawers. Had another situation, a very young woman, an early onset dementia, had gone to Walmart with her private paid caregiver. They go into Walmart, they go to into the food section, and the person with dementia sees the bananas. Oh, we need bananas. And the caregiver says, no, we've got plenty of bananas at home. And she says, we need bananas. We got to have bananas. Oh no, we've got plenty of bananas. Well, now we're escalating. the patient is starting to scream, "We need bananas!" You know, the whole store is looking, you know, what's going on over here? And so the people in the group, you know, how could we have handled this differently? And it's like, put the bananas in the basket. If you buy them and you take them home, you know, make banana bread or whatever. Or as you're walking around the other side of the counter, the bananas go back on the counter. So it's looking at the behavior that you're dealing with and deciding, is there something else that is going on here? Lots of behaviors are because the person is tired. Maybe they've started a new medication. Maybe the doctor took away a medication. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they need the toilet. So it's experimenting and what are the different things that could be causing these underlying behaviors to try and minimize and reduce stress. Now the other thing, as caregivers, you have to be selfish about taking care of yourself. You've got to keep your doctor's appointments. You've got to get away and do something to recharge your batteries. So many times people lose their friends because they're taking care of their spouse. There's a couple that we work with. She is very demented, and over time, when I first met them, she knew who her husband was. Now her husband is a very kind man who takes care of her. No longer recognizes him as her husband. When I first met me, she was very proud of the profession she had had. Doesn't talk about what she did when she was young and vital and working. But I watched the husband. He was taking 24/7 care of his wife. He liked to golf. He wasn't golfing. There were things that he liked to do, but he felt he needed to take care of his wife. And the doctor kept telling him, you've got to do some stuff for yourself. I kept telling him, you've got to do stuff for yourself. Found a couple of other men in the area that we knew through the clinic who were caring for their wives. And so we encouraged him to talk with them to get an idea to get some relief. And he did start golfing again. He hired some help to come in and stay with his wife while he went to golf. But when you're caring for someone and that's all you're doing, your friends get busy with the other things that they have in their life. If you're a bridge player and every Wednesday and you stop going and they're having to bring in a sub, eventually they're going to stop asking you to come and the sub is going to become a regular member of the club. So be selfish. If you need to go to the beauty shop, if you like going and getting your nails done, whatever it is that you like to do, you've got to find a way to cut some time out. Use a friend, hire somebody to come in and give you that break that you need. I know that you are the only one who can provide the care in the way you feel it needs to be offered or provided. But there are people who can approach that. No one is going to be as good as you. But it doesn't mean that 80% isn't sufficient.
Is nobody's talked about the word guilt. As caregivers, we experience a lot of guilt. And my mother gave my sisters and I the most wonderful gift. We didn't realize it at the time. Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And when she was diagnosed, nobody would have guessed. None of her friends would have guessed she had Alzheimer's. It was very early on, and she had wonderful social skills, and she still did the, oh, yes, and all of these things, which are pretty great things to do. In that first 3 weeks after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, she went and visited and interviewed 6 different nursing home directors because she wanted to know what she was going to do. She did not want to be staying with her girls because we had very active lives or a lot going on. She wanted to go to a nursing home and she wanted to go ahead and get that all taken care of. And you know, there are a lot of people who feel very, very guilty about their loved ones going to a nursing home. You know, you don't have to feel guilty about that. Whether it's a 3.5 hour gathering place, whether it's having someone spend a couple days at Libby's place, whether it's actually going to a nursing home, you know, they can have a great time doing that kind of stuff, or be able to sleep 16 hours a day like my mother did. She was thrilled to death. Release the guilt and think about everybody's overall happiness.